live with coverage you can count on. This is Action 2 News HD at 5.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. We begin with the results of a Target 2 investigation. For the first time, law enforcement in Brown County acknowledged there is a gang problem in northeast Wisconsin.
In the last several months, authorities have investigated a fight at Green Bay Preble High School and a shooting at a home in Howard, saying they were gang-related but isolated incidents. Action 2 News examined those events and learned those incidents are just part of a much larger concern of gangs throughout northeast Wisconsin, a concern that's prompting Green Bay police to begin working with state officials to aggressively target gangs and the crimes associated with them. Sarah Thompson has been investigating how much gang activity there is and what's being done to attack it. She joins us now with what she's learned. Sarah.
Bill, take all the images and stereotypes you have when you hear the word gang, toss them aside. While police say there is absolutely a gang problem in the Green Bay area, it's not anything like what you see in the movies or the kind of violent, deadly gang activity in Chicago or LA. Police don't want it to get to that level either. And as we found out, they are beginning an aggressive fight to fix the problem.
These pictures, all taken in Green Bay in the last 2 years, paint an ugly story, one that says gangs are here, and so is the crime that goes with it.
We do see the batteries, the fights, the disorderly conduct behavior, but typically we don't see the shootings and the homicides, things like that.
The Green Bay Police Department's Gang Identification Unit told Target 2 it can tie 200 large disturbances, weapons calls, or aggravated assaults to just one gang in 2012 and 2013. The department recognizes this is an immediate problem. Its 15-officer unit is now partnering with other regional, state, and federal agencies to identify gangs and gang activity.
And you have to look at the root cause, not the names, not the colors, not the history, but what was the root cause, and then focus in on that.
Green Bay's gang unit currently has more than 1,000 people identified or confirmed as being part of a gang in the greater Green Bay area, up from about 800 in 2012. While that sounds like there's far more activity, police say the increase is a direct result of their renewed focus on identifying gangs. Part of that focus is figuring out where they're coming from. While many gang members grew up here, they're finding some of the leaders are actually relocating from larger cities like Chicago, trying to find a better life. But they get here and that changes.
Unfortunately, this is an awkward social situation, so suddenly they can find themselves being big fish in a little pond. Then they have followings.
They prey on the vulnerable, enticing them into a gang life to make them feel like they belong.
Sometimes it's protection from abuse of other groups. Sometimes it's the family that they don't have when they come to their homes in the end of the day. Sometimes it's a neighborhood thing. Sometimes it's generational.
While many people assume most gangs are divided by race, here they're not.
The term that is used in training and how we deliver messages is hood jumping, where one day they're claiming this and the next day they're claiming that.
Lieutenant Ben Allen, head of the gang unit, says people of all ages are involved in gangs, but most are in their teens and 20s, but sometimes hard to identify.
There is a lot more to it. We're not seeing the dressed head to toe in red or blue. We're seeing very subtle things that may identify them as being part of or trying to be part of a gang.
Police are being more aggressive and proactive now than ever before to get ahead of the problem.
We are doing everything that we can to stay on top of it, and we are staying on top of it.
And coming up tonight at 10, Target 2 Investigates goes behind the scenes with the gang unit. They take us with them on patrol to show you how they're targeting gangs and the kinds of results their enforcements are already having.
Tonight, Target 2 Investigates is taking you inside gang life here in northeast Wisconsin.
And for the first time, police are acknowledging there is a gang problem here, responsible for hundreds of fights, disturbances, and weapons calls.
Police not only recognize it's an immediate concern, they're taking control, teaming up with state and federal authorities to tackle the problem. Tonight, Sarah Thompson has a rare look inside this fight.
The Green Bay Police Department's Gang Identification Unit has more than 1,000 people identified or confirmed as being affiliated with one of many gangs in northeast Wisconsin. The unit tells Target 2 it's aggressively pressuring these gangs, trying to get rid of all the crimes that go with them. Tonight, we're showing you how they're doing it and the impact it's already having on gang life here.
It is Friday night just before midnight.
Just leaving the lot.
Officer Mike, who for security reasons asks us not to use his last name, takes us along on what's supposed to be a routine night of patrol for Green Bay's Gang Identification Unit. Within minutes, action.
What we have right now is actually a gang member that we want for narcotics charges. Dave actually thinks he just spotted him in a car.
The gang unit moves in, but by the time they reach his location, he's gone. Mike puts out a citywide alert to other officers. The man is later apprehended.
We know a lot of the vehicles. We know a lot of the faces and the plates and the phone numbers and stuff.
Mike is part of the 15-person gang unit focused on not only identifying and locating gang members, but eliminating their illegal activity.
One of the last parties we just broke up, a lot of the people there, they're all, whispering, oh, those are the gang cops, or they were here, they were there, or they were after school. So I think it is getting out there, and I think it is making a difference.
Most people associate gangs with murders and shootings, but here Mike says they see mostly fights, burglaries, and weapons calls, often involving knives and guns, some of them fake. Patrols like these are designed to keep those crimes from escalating, and already the pressure is too much.
And actually someone we just talked to within the community was able to tell us that a couple of the people that we have been targeting just decided to get out or move away for a little while because the heat's too much for them.
The gangs Mike sees here are scattered in pockets across the area.
But really, down here in this area, you roll every alley pretty much and you'll see stuff like this.
But it's easy to spot where they've been.
So we got the Fire of the Crown and the Almighty Latin King and Queen Nation with a pitchfork going down. So that right there we know is straight gang related.
While graffiti may seem harmless, police want it cleaned up right away, not only to show gangs they're onto them, but to make neighbors feel safe. As soon as it's spotted, the city covers it up. Those efforts have pushed much of the graffiti to secluded areas like vacant properties and alleys.
We know what a lot of the graffiti says or what it means. We can do intelligence reports where, okay, on this day at this time, this was written.
Officers estimate gangs have caused at least $100,000 in property damage from graffiti or smashed windows in the last 2 years in the greater Green Bay area.
You do this every night. Do you think there is a gang problem here?
Absolutely. There is a gang problem, but it's our own gang problem. It's not a Chicago gang problem. It's not a Milwaukee gang problem, but it's a Green Bay gang problem.
These gangs, Mike says, operate differently than in larger cities. They cross races and genders, drawing in mostly teens and 20-somethings. While police do watch for certain symbols, signs, and colors, these officers see a change from the gang stereotype. Members don't all have tattoos. Some drive what most would consider an ordinary-looking car, and they dress differently, sometimes wearing polo shirts. They're drawn into this life, often by gang members from larger cities who moved here to get away from that life, but instead become new leaders.
For one person, it's that family mentality. For another person, it's for the reputation. For another person, it's for the fear factor. For another person, it's for easy access to guns and drugs and sex. I mean, it goes all over the place.
While gang members make up a very small percentage of the population, Mike sees it affecting the entire community.
I mean, I don't want the gangster lifestyle mentality affecting my family or anyone else's family who's here just trying to live a good life and do the right thing.
Much of the work the gang unit is doing requires help from you. We investigate how police are working with schools and city leaders to root out gangs and what you can do to keep your family and your neighborhood safe tomorrow night at 5.
Thanks, Sarah. Green Bay police say 6 people are detained after a report of a teenager with a gun on the city's east side. Officers responded to the corner of Roosevelt and Stewart Streets tonight after neighbors called about a teen waving around a handgun in a threatening manner. That gun turned out to be a fake. When officers arrived on the scene, a group of juveniles ran into a home where police found drugs. Police are looking into a possible gang tie there. No one was injured.
Green Bay police now tell Action 2 News an incident on the city's east side is in fact gang-related. We first told you about this last night as police responded to a call. The teenagers were standing outside a home on Stewart Street with one of them waving a gun. Police say as they were responding, those teens surrounded another group of kids and threatened them with the gun. Police arrived, the teens ran into a house and hid these guns, which turned out to be fake. Officers also found marijuana in the home. A 17-year-old man as well as 2 15-year-old boys were arrested and being charged with armed robbery, resisting arrest, and displaying a fake firearm. Now, this comes on the heels of our Target 2 investigation on gangs in the Green Bay area and the aggressive approach Green Bay police, along with state and federal agencies, are taking to eliminate the crimes associated with gangs. Sarah Thompson has learned schools and community leaders now launching new efforts in response to this gang problem. She joins us with what they're doing and what you can do to help. Sarah.
Cammie, Green Bay's mayor and the Green Bay Area Public School District tell Target 2 they are now starting new programs aimed at kids to either get them out or keep them out of the gang life. So many people hear the word gang and they're instantly afraid, but police and these groups are pushing you to fight back and report what you see.
Right here.
You know, it's like a dog, you know, they got to mark their spot, but I mean, with graffiti, it's very, very important that they get removed immediately and that people call and that we're out there the next day, because I mean, that can become a bigger issue and that can be part of a much larger problem.
That's what Green Bay's 15-member gang identification unit is working so hard to prevent.
You can see it really well on the side of this one, and there's some new stuff up over there I see.
Officer Mike, who asked us not to use his last name for security reasons,
Just leaving the lot.
gives us an inside look at the gang life he sees during a midnight patrol.
I'm Bravo. The overall vast majority of people, they are good, law-abiding citizens and try to do the right thing every day. And they don't see this. They're not out here at night, or they're not in these alleys, they're not down at these fights or in these homes to see that there is this issue here. But it definitely is here.
From graffiti
So we got the Fire of the Crown.
to the hundreds of fights and weapons calls police have now tied to just one gang, he sees what gang crime is doing to this community. Police are aggressively targeting the illegal activity caused by the more than 1,000 gang members they've now identified in the greater Green Bay area. But it's going to take more than their efforts on these streets.
We're not going to let this become a problem in Green Bay. You know, we're committed to it.
Green Bay Mayor Jim Schmidt tells Target 2 he's now looking to add resources to the police department to help fight gangs, and is applying for grants to help with funding.
Yeah, the numbers are concerning, and so we need to make sure that we're on top of this and we have the right informants and that we're taking care of it.
A big concern for the gang unit is what Officer Mike calls a wannabe, the kid who thinks it sounds cool to be part of a gang, but doesn't really know what that means.
They're the most unpredictable. They'll run, they might fight, they might pull a weapon just because they feel they have something to prove.
Those are the kids city leaders and schools are targeting. Next week, the mayor will hold his first meeting with a new advisory group of area 9th graders to start identifying ways the city can help kids who feel like they don't belong have a choice other than gangs.
So I want to hear right from the kid on, you know, what's going to keep you on the right track.
All this has to start at an early age when children can be influenced by older siblings venturing into the gang life. Target 2 investigated and found federal funding for the GREAT program. Gang education awareness for middle schools was cut a few years ago. Green Bay's gang unit tells us it's now working with the Green Bay Area School District to talk to students about gangs.
We're actually having the gang task force officers come in to our schools occasionally and just talk to kids and, you know, build relationships with students and they will get information from faculty members that way too.
Gang training is no longer only offered to top school administrators. Teachers and staff are now requesting training on gang symbols and colors. There's also a lot you can do.
These people see activities going on within their neighborhoods, or they know there's this problem house, or they know that there's this, you know, group of people that are always hanging out and every night they're breaking bottles in the street or causing ruckus or just really affecting their life in their neighborhood. Call us and let us know that.
Police say don't let fear be a factor.
These are punks, and there's nothing to be afraid of. And it will be anonymous on a call-in, and if people don't want to call the police department, then they should call me or call their alderman, and we'll make the call.
Now, there are a lot of online resources for parents and for the community. We have linked all those on our website, WBAY.com. Just click on News, then Target 2. And there you can also see our other Target 2 reports on gangs in Northeast Wisconsin.
From WBAY TV, this is Action 2 News at 5. Coverage you can count on.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. Green Bay police say a 9-month-long investigation by undercover gang officers has resulted in one of the largest busts in the department's history.
It also caused the dismantling of a street gang responsible for dozens of crimes in the last year. Sarah Thompson has been tracking the investigation for months now and joins us with what she found out. Sarah.
Cami, Target 2 first told you about this specialized gang unit during our investigation back in April when police first acknowledged there is a gang problem here and took us with the undercover officers to see how they were trying to eliminate it. And it was just this last week, though, that they had enough intelligence on the gangs to make 9 arrests of people considered the top leaders of the Bay City Kings, a sect of the Latin Kings. Police tell Target 2 this man, 26-year-old Michael Dockstader, was the ringleader of that gang, responsible for multiple crimes and funneling drugs and stolen guns across state lines.
When we went on a night patrol with the Green Bay Police Department's specialized gang suppression unit in April,
I thought I just saw one of our kings in a car here.
Target 2 got a glimpse of how these specially trained officers, along with state and federal agents, were tracking gangs and their crimes in northeast Wisconsin.
The investigators identified the group as being involved in trading guns for drugs, bringing drugs into the area from outside of the area.
During the 9-month investigation, police tell Target 2 they pinpointed Michael Dockstader as the head of the Bay City Kings and identified at least 8 others as his top leaders who met weekly to plan their next move.
They had rules and regulations that they had to follow. They had a book that they had to follow. They had a hierarchy of command that they had to follow. They had dues they had to pay, so it was structured. It wasn't just a bunch of kids getting together. It was a structured group, and they ran it as a business, as an operation, a criminal operation.
Captain Todd Thomas tells Target 2 it was often during those meetings Dockstader would coordinate crimes.
They were involved in other types of street crimes, batteries, thefts, burglaries, a lot of drug distribution.
Thomas says it was mainly guns stolen from people's homes in northeast Wisconsin, exchanged or sold for prescription pills and marijuana in Milwaukee and Chicago, and brought back here for distribution that kept this gang going. Court documents show many of those drug deals happened in public places, including parking lots of several businesses. Then finally last week, the gang unit made its move.
We have multiple people in custody. We've seized several vehicles, several assets, cash, drugs.
Thomas says there's more to come, not only with this gang, but others still operating.
The message wasn't just sent to this Bay City Kings group. The other gang members know. They know who we are, and they know who our officers and investigators are, and that's the message we want to send, that they're not welcome here.
And Dockstader is being held in the Brown County Jail on probable cause, awaiting multiple charges. Meantime, investigators say they have uncovered dozens more crimes committed in the last year, but never reported. They're now going back through those, looking for potential victims and other suspects.
Green Bay police, along with state and federal agents, say they've dismantled a large street gang responsible for multiple crimes throughout northeast Wisconsin.
They've arrested 9 people so far, with more to come. Sarah Thompson joins us with this. Target 2 investigates on how police infiltrated the group.
It took multiple agencies with Green Bay's gang identification unit in the lead to work their way into these gangs. Of the 9 arrested in the last week, police have identified 26-year-old Michael Dockstader as the man they say acted as the ringleader of the Bay City Kings, a subset of the Latin Kings. He is in jail tonight, awaiting several charges. Investigators tell Target 2 he and the others committed multiple crimes involving drug trafficking, stolen guns, burglaries, and substantial batteries in Wisconsin and Illinois.
When specially trained officers with the Green Bay Police Department's new gang suppression unit took Target 2 on patrol in April, they showed us how tough it is to find out what's truly happening in the secretive inner circle of Green Bay area gangs.
Just leaving the lot.
But in the last 9 months, they made their way in, developing informants and details of what Captain Todd Thomas calls an organized criminal operation led by Michael Dockstader.
They were involved in the exchange of guns for drugs. So we did recover some firearms. They were involved in other types of street crimes, batteries, thefts, burglaries, a lot of drug distribution.
Thomas says gang officers, along with multiple other agencies, tracked the group's crimes, stealing guns from homes in northeast Wisconsin, then trading or selling them for oxycodone, marijuana, and meth in Milwaukee and Chicago, and selling the drugs back here.
These are late teens, early 20s. Yeah, they're not kids.
Thomas tells Target 2 Doc Stater and the other leaders would meet weekly, continually changing locations, trying to blend in.
All the members would have to show up at these meetings. They had rules and regulations that they had to follow. They had a book that they had to follow. They had a hierarchy of command that they had to follow.
Thomas says it was just in the last week officers had everything ready to make their move, serving warrants and arresting 9 so far, with promise of more to come.
The case is ongoing. We have multiple people in custody. We've seized several vehicles, several assets, cash, drugs.
Thomas tells Target 2 there are still other active gangs in northeast Wisconsin, but he considers the Bay City Kings the largest and most dangerous. The gang unit, though, will remain aggressive at preventing others from taking over for the leaders who've been arrested.
It's the ripple effect. You know, it's the throwing the rock in the calm lake. It's not just the impact of the rock, it's the ripples and the message you send out that this activity is not welcome. We have people out there.
Thomas says they are now investigating several crimes this group may have been responsible for, but were never reported. He is asking for any information related to this gang, and you can remain anonymous.
Neighborhoods across Green Bay are fed up, reporting a huge spike in graffiti in the last few weeks, sprayed all over public and private properties, even trails. Now police targeting these gangs are rolling out new efforts to clean it up. Sarah Thompson went with the gang suppression unit as they met with neighbors and joins us now with what she found out. Sarah.
Bill, you might think graffiti is harmless. It's a little paint and kids causing some trouble. But if you live with it every day, worried the graffiti will turn into something bigger and your kids are not safe, you want it cleaned up.
I grew up here and I have never seen the graffiti so bad.
This is what Diane, who asked not to be identified, woke up to last week.
I walk all over with the kids. I walk all over and it's all over the place.
We just had graffiti 2 weeks ago and again now a couple nights ago.
Jennifer, who also asked not to be identified, no longer takes her kids for walks, afraid they'll see the graffiti and gang-related crimes creeping onto her East Side street.
There's broken beer bottles, cigarettes. Somebody found a needle across the street.
She's had enough, posting a for sale sign 2 years ago, but no one's willing to buy.
I'd like to live in a neighborhood where I'm not afraid that I have to get up and double check that my doors are locked twice.
Dude, they did more. They did more, that's all new.
The graffiti and other gang-related crimes have the attention of the Green Bay Police Department's Gang Suppression Unit. The specially trained officers took Target 2 on patrol in the areas targeted by gangs and graffiti.
Just showing people like this needs to stop because it causes problems for people like you that are trying to keep up the neighborhoods and keep the houses nice, you know.
Police showed Target 2 all the graffiti reported in Green Bay since January of 2013, more than 150 cases. The yellow and orange show the hardest hit neighborhoods.
We have it on city property, we have it in public places, we have it in private property, we have it on businesses, we have it on the streets. It's everywhere.
But they want it gone.
This is crip graffiti.
So they're rolling out a new graffiti abatement program. Officers are going door to door, first reading the graffiti.
It helps us track behaviors of these gangs, who's at odds with who.
Then asking neighbors to clean it up. City ordinance says graffiti must be removed within a week or risk a fine.
And a lot of times they're like, well, I didn't do it. Why am I responsible for it? And that's a great question. But again, we talk about ownership in their community.
If homeowners cannot physically or financially remove the graffiti, Allen says police or community service groups will help.
We've cleaned it up twice, but I mean, it's just wrong.
But those living with the problem say it shouldn't be their problem.
You shouldn't have to do it at all. And these people need to go out of my neighborhood. This is my neighborhood.
Have you guys thought about moving or?
No, I ain't going nowhere. I came here when I was 5 and I will die here.
Now, some of the graffiti police are seeing now is actually threatening to kill police officers. We'll take a look at that and why they say the arrests of top gang leaders last month are only the beginning of the gang-related crimes they are uncovering. That's tonight at 10.
Green Bay police say despite the arrest of the top-tier leaders last month, the gang problem in the Green Bay area has not gone away.
Target 2 has learned the gang unit is working on several more investigations as big as the one that led to the dismantling of the Bay City Kings. Sarah Thompson went on patrol with the gang officers and joins us with what she learned.
Target 2 found out the gang suppression unit created specially for that big 9-month investigation into the Bay City Kings isn't done yet. The GSU is being extended in the midst of several additional investigations. They took Target 2 on patrol, showing how the gangs are not only threatening neighbors, but those sworn to protect them.
Yeah, there's some on the fence, and I think there's some right up here too.
This is the result of gangs most of the community sees, something that looks like scribbles to us.
Anything crossed out, broken in half, inverted, flipped upside down is to show disrespect.
It's a blueprint for a gang's next move when officers with the gang suppression unit see it.
It tells a big story. When they tag once and then someone tags over it, we know that that's new, and we know that this is a new beef that these two groups are having.
Officers Mike, Ryan, and Dave, who asked us not to use their last names for security, are specially trained to track gangs. They study the graffiti, learning about new and existing gangs and the crimes associated with them.
Because they're like little foot soldiers for the Mexican mafia. Or they're supposed to be.
The GSU officers know these neighborhoods.
You ever see who did or no?
And people who live here.
It's just something needs to be done.
Target 2 discovered police have now made 14 arrests based on their original 9-month investigation, with tips now coming from the community.
I guess you can say they trust us or they believe in us and they know that we can produce a result now.
But those gang members clearly don't like the pressure.
I have a picture on my phone from one of the SROs that shows GBPDK.
Green Bay Police Department killer, a threat to the officers trying to eliminate the gangs.
We're putting a push on them. They don't like it, so their means of resistance is clearly come back at us.
We're obviously very concerned about those things. So that is a very strong message to us, and we want to get to those.
The GSU tells Target 2 there are still more than 1,000 people identified or associated with gangs in the greater Green Bay area, classifying them into two groups, the drug trafficking organizations, or DTOs.
They're going to be more complex, more structured, more organized, like what we saw into our Latin King case.
Police say they are harder to track because they don't use graffiti or stereotypical gang colors or signs. And then there's the less organized delinquent youth, or hoodlums, as the FBI calls them.
They come together under basically one leader usually because it's the biggest, baddest kid on the block and he has the most reputation and status. So kind of rules by force and fear and muscle.
They can be just as dangerous as DTOs because they are often young and unpredictable, causing chaos through crimes of opportunity and disrupting neighborhoods.
They need to get out of my neighborhood because they don't belong here.
Without hesitation, officers tell Target 2 they estimate 80% of this area's crimes are connected to gangs.
Our gang problem are the fights in the parks, the fights in the schools, the retail thefts, the burglaries, the graffiti you see going out, people's cars getting broken into. You know, people scared to let their kids outside because the gang members are walking down the middle of the street throwing beer bottles at passing cars. That's our gang problem. And it's still a problem here for the community because we don't want it here, we don't need it here.
As the GSU continues tracking these gangs, they're rolling out a graffiti abatement program, trying to clean up the graffiti quickly to improve neighborhoods and direct enforcement there faster. We have details on our website about the program and help removing the graffiti. It's at WBAY.com. Just click on Target 2.